Many are firmly convinced that Atlantis should no longer just be considered a myth and the city is waiting to be discovered, full of hidden secrets, treasures, and mysteries. Some believe they know the exact location of Atlantis and are preparing a trip to get there, somehow. Many will dismiss Atlantis as a pseudo-historical city, but was Plato just making everything up? Or was there an advanced civilization wiped out by a catastrophic tidal wave? Today we'll be presenting to you the lost city of Atlantis.
But first, we'd like to thank this person over here for leaving us a comment. We appreciate your insight and thoughts, and we'd like to hear more from you guys.
Number 9. The Atlantis Description. This legendary city is described in one of Plato's works, his Timaeus, which describes a vast, powerful empire that could easily conquer all of Europe and Asia if they tried to. It was surrounded by mountains and rivers and was made up of 3 rings of land, each one covered by water. A narrow strait led to a harbor, which made for easy access to the Atlantic Ocean. The Atlanteans were set on conquering land around them and enslaving all those who stand in their path. Atlantis had plenty of trees, an abundance of elephants, and fine temples. The lavish temple of Poseidon was made from gold, ivory, and silver, which was found in the center island. The whole complex was surrounded by a wall made of pure gold. They had a massive fleet of warships and a calvary consisting of 10,000 chariots. However, the gods may have not been too appeased because a total collapse of the city was about to take place. The story goes that when the Atlanteans had began their invasion on Athens, Atlantis was swept away with severe floods and earthquakes, never to be seen again. Or has it? Number 8. Where could it be? Many have spent countless hours trying to figure out where exactly Atlantis could be. Our best known clue of uncovering this mystery is from Plato's description. Plato didn't really seem to make up a bunch of things just to prove some type of point. He was a philosopher who primarily relied on factual evidence to support his claims. Many believe that there's no way his description could be false since it seems so detailed. In the Atlantis dialogues, he describes a vast war-waging empire to the west that was far ahead of their time technologically. The civilization was devastated by enormous flood and earthquakes that led to their demise. Some are beginning to believe that the Italian island of Sardinia matches the description quite well. Much of it went underwater at some point in ancient history and was home to an advanced civilization known as the Nurugs. This civilization had been overlooked for quite some time, and their enigmatic towers were built more than 5,000 years ago. Could Sardinia be home to the lost empire of Atlantis? Let's look at some other possible locations as well. Number 7. The Yonaguni Monument. Some believe that Atlantis is actually near Japan, and not all believe that these rock formations are completely natural. Yonaguni Island is found near the island of Okinawa, but if you decide to scuba dive off the coast, you'll find this mysterious object not too far away. In fact, Kimura from Ryukyu University says that these are definitely man-made and no bizarre coincidence. What's even more interesting about this site is that geologists believe that this area of land would have been above ground from 8 to 10,000 years ago. This certainly helps support the theory that the flat edges are no strange coincidence. In fact, if it were constructed by humans, which people are still debating, it could be the oldest known structure on Earth. This would drastically change many theories about the first civilization being in Sumeria, and people's minds would be simply blown. Is it too far from ancient Greece to possibly be Atlantis that Plato was referring to? Number 6. Minoan Crete. Some believe the civilization Plato is referring to is that of the ancient Minoans who inhabited the island of Crete. This was just a little bit before ancient Greek began to flourish. The Minoans were an advanced civilization during the Bronze Age, sometime between 3650 to 1400 BC. The mentioning of sacrificing bulls was also mentioned by Plato, and we shouldn't forget that this civilization is known for doing just that, as well as being the setting for the famous play, Theseus and the Minotaur. Archaeologist Will Durant claims that the Minoans were the first link in the European chain and is the earliest civilization of their kind in Europe. Their language was certainly different from the Greeks and were responsible for some beautiful artwork. They left behind the beautiful ruins of the city of Knossos, which is considered to be Europe's oldest city. So what happened to the people that inhabited this island of Crete? No one really knows for sure, but some theories extend from a volcanic eruption, earthquakes, and even flooding, similar to the description of Atlantis. The Minoan period seemingly disappeared in 1400 BC. This powerful and intelligent civilization was simply wiped from history during their peak, which led many to believe it was from a natural disaster, possibly a giant flood. Number 5. Gold Poseidon Statue. If Atlantis does exist, and Plato's description of a golden temple does exist, that means there's quite a bit of gold waiting to be discovered. Poseidon's wife apparently had 5 pairs of twin sons who were demigods, with the son Atlas being the first ruler of Atlantis. The ruler and other sons would go on to build the golden temple in the center of the city. The main statue displayed Poseidon riding a chariot carried by winged horses, or Pegasus. You have to wonder also if this civilization was worshipping the same god as the Greeks, or if it was just Atlantis' version of the god of the seas. The temple would have been utterly massive, and the roof made from ivory. With all the gold and elephants in the description, you have to wonder if Atlantis could truly be somewhere in Africa. What's also interesting to note is that the country with the most twins in the world is Nigeria, which is not only close to the Atlantic, but also neighboring countries such as Mauritania and Ghana, which are known for being large producers of gold. Number 4. Aliens? Whenever something mysterious tends to happen, it's always important to consider aliens as a possibility. Plato certainly talks about a highly advanced civilization unlike anything in the known world, possibly from out of this world, that attacked Athens. They were somehow able to repel the attacks though. At the end of the story, he talks about how the gods submerged the advanced nation with a flood and it sinks to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. If the descriptions are correct, then we would assume that this civilization takes quite a bit of time in order to reach their capabilities. Some theorize that aliens have been living in a remote isolated area for tens of thousands of years and would be the ones who set the modern blueprints for humans as we know it. All the advanced technology that they had being used to control the water would eventually turn against them, like we had seen in Hurricane Katrina and other modern disasters. Could it be just another civilization that truly existed and is just waiting to be discovered at the bottom of the ocean? Number 3. The New World. Some believe that Atlantis was somehow linked to the New World and that there is some sort of ancient connection with the Greeks and the Americans. It does seem to relate to the described size of Atlantis, meaning a lot bigger than Asia Minor and Libya combined. When Christopher Columbus had arrived, he felt as though he had actually reached the lost Atlantic island and that the Atlanteans were really some kind of advanced ancient Mayan or Aztec civilization. Although it's doubtful these people had the capabilities across the Atlantic, we see a similarity with the description of Tenochtitlan, or modern-day Mexico City, with the description of lakes surrounding an island. It's believed that a city wasn't established here until 1325, which has to be a little bit too late to be known by Plato. Also, with the lack of elephants in America, we suppose that we can cross this one off the list as a possibility. Number 2. The Azores landmass. Could there be a continent out there that's been completely submerged by the Atlantic Ocean? A giant landmass seems to be visible on Google Earth, which measures about 413 miles wide, with the highest peak making up the Azores Islands. It's interesting how this continent also seems to match Plato's description when it comes to not only size, but also geographical location. He also mentions how the Atlanteans controlled the Gates of Hercules, or the Gates of Gibraltar as we know today. Atlantis is also described as an island continent, which seems pretty similar to what we're looking at here. In fact, if you look at the eastern corner of the triangular landmass, you can notice a circular valley where Atlantis may have once been. Could this mysterious location possibly be the true Atlantis location? Many still believe that this area has been underwater for millions of years, but one scientist suggests that the area just recently has been submerged. What do you believe? And number 1, but before we get there, we'd like to hear where you guys think Atlantis actually is, and maybe we'll feature you in an upcoming video. And number 1, the Richat structure. Also known as the Eye of the Sahara for obvious reasons, some feel as though this structure matches quite well with what Plato was describing. The Eye of the Sahara that we see here is so massive that NASA uses it as a referencing point to help them figure out where they are in space. This crazy place is about 25 miles wide, which would be about the right diameter for a large metropolitan city. The ring-shaped patterns match perfectly the layout of the city of Atlantis as well, and the mountain to the north makes it even match even better. But there's obviously one problem with this theory. How the heck would people build such a massive city in the middle of the desert? You can also see some clear evidence of rivers and streams that once existed on the North Mountain. Could the area have been much more rich and fertile at some point in time? Only a few hundred miles from the coast, there's no reason that they couldn't have constructed some kind of canal to reach the city. There's also plenty of gold in this area, with the Tasiat mine located just east.
So what'd you guys think of that video? Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel, and maybe we'll feature you in an upcoming video.